When we talk about Indian women's cricket, the conversations often revolve around a Shanta Rangaswamy or a Diana Adalji. But what a lot of people don't take note of is the middle generation of Indian women's cricket that currently are enabling it and inspiring the girls in today's age.
With India on a brink to win the T20 series in England against England, and with the upcoming ODI series, it took us all the way back to 1999 when the Indian women's team beat England in England for the very first time. The series in 1999 was a very weird one because since 1997, this was the first international series the Indian women's were going to play. In fact, the captain of the 97 team wasn't even picked in the 99 team. When the squad was announced in 1999, Chanderkanta Kaul was announced as the captain. They've travelled to England to play 4 matches, 1 against Ireland and 3 against England. Out of the 4 matches, India won 3 of them, where the only match that they lost was the last match on the tour. They beat Ireland and beat England 2-1. Now, before we start talking about few prominent figures from this squad, hit that subscribe button.
First and foremost, we have to look at the successful captain, and that's Chanderkanta Kaul. It is very interesting to note that Chanderkanta Kaul was captain only for this particular series, and this happened in 1999. Now, while we do know that this was India's first tour after 1997, and this is a long time for them to have played ODIs, not only this, but the other thing to note here was that the team also that was traveling was extremely young. There were a lot of people who were traveling to England for the very first time. In fact, this is also the series where Mithali Raj and even Reshma Gandhi made their debuts. And this makes this achievement all the more important and why Chanderkanta Kaul's captaincy comes into the picture. She also had a decent series with the bat getting 50 and overall being the third highest run scorer for that Indian team. And Chanderkanta Kaul has been a very prominent figure through the 90s where in the domestic circuit she used to score heaps and heaps of runs. From there, obviously that has not necessarily translated in the Indian cricket or in the international level, but she's still been a very stylish batter for the Indian team and she's played some crucial knocks through her career. Apart from this, not only was Kaul a stylish batter but also an able leader as was displayed in this particular series. Apart from the 4 ODIs that happened, Kaul also led this test side to a draw versus the English team. And Kaul also for a very long time held the record for the highest score by a test debutant from India. This record was only recently broken by Shefali Verma.
The second prominent figure from this squad is also currently known as the voice of women's cricket, and that's Anjum Chopra. In the series against England in 1999, she was the highest run scorer in the series. She scored 177 runs across 3 matches with an average of 59, where she had 100 and 150 under her name. Even though Anjum Chopra is now a commentator, she had a lot of runs behind her in her international circuit. She is still the 4th highest run scorer for the Indian team in the ODI format. She's played 127 matches. She also was the first Indian woman to play 100 ODIs to begin with. She scored close to 2,900 runs with an average of 31, with 100 which came in the 99 series and 18 50s under her name. For someone who had an international career spanning 17 years, she was the first Indian women's player to hit 1,000 runs. She's been a part of 4 ODI World Cups and 2 T20 World Cups. In fact, apart from Mithali Raj, she has the most amount of half centuries for the Indian team in the World Cups. Interestingly enough, apart from Mithali Raj and Harmanpreet Kaur, she has most runs as a batter for the Indian team at the World Cup. It's no surprise that Mithali Raj and Anjum Chopra's name is almost side by side all the time because them as a partnership for the Indian team is the second highest with close to 2,000 runs as partners with 5 century partnerships. If you look at her career, it's ironic that most of her runs have come against the England side. She was also the first Indian woman to be an honorary member of the Marylebone Cricket Club.
And from here, we move to not only India's best wicketkeeper but also statistically most successful wicketkeeper, and that's Anju Jain. Even on that 1999 series, she batted extremely well in the 3 matches with an average of almost 35, getting 100 plus runs in that series. She also happens to be India's 8th highest scorer ever in ODIs. In the 65 matches that she's played, she's got 1,729 runs at an average of 29.8. But looking past just her batting, it is her wicket-keeping skills alone that could have got her into the squad. Not only is she India's most successful wicketkeeper with 81 dismissals, but she also has the most number of stumpings in the world in ODI cricket with 51 stumpings to her name. What also stands out and what should be reflective from her world record is the number of stumpings she has and how good she still is as a wicketkeeper. For a record that to this day belongs to Anju Jain, it just goes on to show how good she's been as a keeper. And this is also evident because not only did she have good hands, she also had really quick feet, and even to this day, she easily has one of the best techniques going around, especially in Indian cricket as a wicketkeeper. In fact, a little trivia for you is that Reshma Gandhi in this series had made her debut against Ireland. Despite Reshma Gandhi getting that century on debut, as soon as Anju Jain was fit, she was able to replace Reshma Gandhi in the squad because that's how good she was. Apart from donning the batting as well as wicket-keeping caps, she also added another feather to her cap by becoming one of the youngest captains for India at the age of just 26, leading them in the 2000 ODI World Cup. This was at the time a controversial selection for two reasons. Not only was she young at just 26 years of age, but there were also other able captains in that Indian squad. In fact, she wasn't even a captain for her domestic side. And despite all of this, she still went on to captain India and very successfully at that, leading them to a semi-final in the World Cup. India also went on to have a fairly successful campaign, winning 5 out of the 7 games under Anju Jain. However, what's surprising is that she never captained the Indian side after this. Anju Jain still continues to contribute to Indian cricket by not only being a coach at some point with the WPL, but also being a coach at the domestic level.
From talking about a captain, a batter, a wicketkeeper, now let's talk about the most successful spinner India has ever produced. Neetu David in the 1999 series wasn't the most impressive. In 3 matches, she just got 1 wicket, but if you put that aside, her accolades are just extraordinary. She's not only the highest wicket taker for India as a spinner, she's the 5th highest wicket taker as a spinner overall in the history of ODI cricket. She's also the 2nd highest wicket taker for India. She had played 97 games, picked up 141 wickets with an average of just 16 and an economy of less than 3. She had an economy of 2.8. What's very, very impressive is the fact that even though she played in the 1990s and early 2000s, she still has the best bowling figure in an innings for women's test cricket, where she picked up 8 for 53. A very wholesome tale with Neetu David is the fact that she looked up to Diana Idalji and also happened to play with her as 2 left-arm spinners in the Railways. She's still a very prominent figure in the Indian circuit. In fact, she's the chairperson of the selection committee for the women's Indian team.
And the last person on this list is probably someone that a lot of people don't talk about as much, and that's Hemlata Kala. Having played 78 ODIs for India, scoring 1000 runs at an average of 20.8, Hemlata Kala was definitely around for a long period of time and helped India in some crucial knocks. Although the records don't talk about how much the strike rate is because the balls were intact, Hemlata Kala was known to be a good player of strokes. In fact, although she took time to get her eye in, once she was in, she usually would go on and dominate bowling lineups. She also did this in the domestic setup, but more importantly in a lot of crucial innings for India. However, her most impactful format definitely had to be Test cricket. It's somewhere she's shown consistently, and in fact in the 7 Test matches, she had an average of 50.3, even getting 2 centuries to her name. Along with this, she also bowled gentle medium pace and was a reliable all-rounder. After her cricketing career, she's gone on to become the former chief selector of the Indian team, and not only that, she's also been in the WPL with the Delhi Capitals.
Of course, these are just some of the names from the 1999 series. There were others too who did contribute with the bat and the ball. There is an honourable mention in all of this, and that is in the form of Reshma Gandhi. She debuted against the Ireland in the same match where Mithali Raj debuted, with both of them getting centuries on debut. In fact, the only game after that Reshma Gandhi played was in the last match of the ODI series against England, where in the 3rd ODI she scored 18 not out. What's interesting is the fact that in the 2 innings that she did play for India, she stayed not out, scoring 118. And what's mind-boggling and so unfortunate for her is the fact that she never played for India even when she was scoring a lot of runs in the domestic circuit. But all of these performances and all of these names, especially the win in 99 against England in England, served as an inspiration to all the girls playing for India in the early 2000s and even after. And it's no coincidence that another great in the Indian women's circuit in the form of Jhulan Goswami also debuted in the early 2000s. Both Mithali Raj and Jhulan Goswami, for the most part of their career, just continued the legacy that was left behind by the players playing in the 90s. We have talked about this in the past of how after 1999, the series that they played next was in the World Cup in 2000. And even though there wasn't much cricket in between, the Indian women's team did extremely well. And as compared to that, which was 25 years ago to the present, where the Indian team are playing 5 T20s against England and then a couple of ODIs and then a possible tour against Australia and then the World Cup, it shows how far BCCI and the Indian women's team have come in terms of playing matches and performances. And of course, we have made a couple of videos talking about the history of women's cricket, and this also happens to be one of them. We continue to do this to showcase how the backbone of Indian women's was created. In a country where the men's Indian cricket team's past and history is well documented from the first Indian Test captain of C.K. Naidu, it is really important to not let go of the past of the Indian women's team and to understand how they were formed to begin with.
This has been our video on that historic 1999 ODI series and how that eventually served as a stepping stone for further success in women's cricket. If you've liked this video, definitely comment down below, and if you have any memories from historical events in women's cricket for India. But apart from that, also leave a like, share this with your friends, and definitely subscribe. All of our links are in the description. Definitely follow us on our socials. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.